Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Saladino. Okay, as a connoisseur, this is probably my current favorite YouTube thumbnail. Or actually, it may be this one.
Just listen to them, Daddy. Get over here. Anything you want, Daddy. Anything you want.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Everything's fucked. Reform are on the rise, Trump has been crowned the God King of America, and across so much of the world, it feels like the far right have been able to very successfully position themselves as this necessary force of change for a broken system. And the system is broken, that bit's absolutely true, but the promises made by the likes of Farage or Maloney or Le Pen are just false. The great barrier between us and a better world isn't immigrants, it's inequality, it's hate-mongering, and increasingly, it's fascism.
This guy is such a disgusting, scummy weasel. He's talking about politics and the right wing and fascism, and look, he's clearly on the left, the far left. So politically, if he's against Trump or Elon Musk or Le Pen or whoever, fine. That's fine. If he was a bread tuber, and this video was about his political issues with Trump and the right and whatever, that would be one thing. But he's talking about this as a so-called video games journalist. What does this have to do with video games?
But what does that have to do with games? Well, you saw Gamergate happen, you've seen the vitriol that game developers still receive today if they dare to include stories that are deemed to include too much DEI politics. To put it simply, there is a part of games culture, our culture, that breeds toxicity and anger and resentment.
Well, that's probably because of people like you. This guy, Chris Pratt, not to be mistaken for Chris Pratt, is calling our hobby, gaming, a hobby for gamers. He's calling it his culture, our culture. When he says our, of course, he means feminists, activists, people who don't give a shit about games. They just got involved when it became popular and now act like it's their culture. And they do this thing where they go, Gamergate. Like, that's all you need to know. Gamergate. Ethics and journalism. Like, it wasn't about ethics and journalism, it was about immigrants and women simply existing in games. And they never address the actual criticism. They just go,
to put it simply, there is a part of games culture, our culture, that breeds toxicity and anger and resentment.
You're the reason why, dipshit. You and your ilk. Sound like one of them, actually. Your fellow feminists, leftist activists who turned gaming into a culture. They literally turned art and entertainment for men. They turned it into a culture war that centers women and gay people and trans people, marginalized people. They turned it into a culture and act like people pushing back is the problem. To the point where you can't even say, like Insomniac clearly made Mary Jane Watson uglier in the sequel to Marvel Spider-Man.
Come here, man. Mary.
But not only that, they put more MJ missions in the game when players said not to. And to show you how there is a journalism problem in games, journos complained about the police and police-focused missions in the first game, not because the missions were bad or took away from the story in any way, but because they were politically opposed to the police. The whole all cops are bastards shtick. ACAB. That wasn't a complaint that had anything to do with the gameplay or the story. Now, there is a lore issue with just how chummy this nigga Spidey was with the cops, but that wasn't why the journos were mad. They were just mad that Spidey was concerned with the police and their safety at all. And Insomniac took the cops out of the sequel. They listened to the journos, but the actual gamers who said, stop with the MJ missions, not only were we ignored, they doubled down on the MJ missions, and then made MJ even uglier than she was in the first game. Not that she was actually ugly in the first game, but she wasn't MJ. She was just some random girl. She was the typical girl next door. The thing is, because of the left's invasion of video games, you can't even get a lore-accurate Mary Jane Watson. But this asshole goes, Gamergate. Even though you can see how quickly journals will pull shit like the whole Black Myth Wukong hit piece, and how not one of the other outlets or other individual reporters ever stopped to say, hey, wait, I know IGN is reporting on this, but I've looked into this myself, and I see that there are people online, people from China, who are explaining the context of these translations. And even if you were to take the deliberately mistranslated comments that was supposed to be the proof of game science, the Wukong developer studio, even if you took those bullshit translations that were deliberately mistranslated to make game science look as bad as possible to support their feminist narrative, IGN's feminist narrative, those comments that were supposed to be the smoking gun against them were just crude at worst. They weren't sexism. But journos pushed that lie for nearly a year before Black Myth Wukong came out. And even then, when it finally came out and became this huge hit, you had journos and publicists making articles straight up lying and calling the game sexist because it didn't feature any women. But anybody who actually played more than a few hours of the game knows that there are plenty of women in the game, even though it wouldn't matter anyway. Women don't need to be in everything just because they exist in the real world, especially in a hobby that is predominantly male. But this fucking Gollum-looking cretin has the nerve to say,
we now live in this bizarro world in which Elon Musk, the billionaire backer of Trumpism, can be seen tweeting about Gamergate 2, or the inclusion of a black samurai in Assassin's Creed Shadows, or promising to fund and launch an AI-powered game studio to make games great again. We are losing ground here and something needs to be done.
We now live in this bizarro world. What do you mean, we now live in this bizarro world? You created this bizarro world, where some little far-left worm can make a video talking about how video games is his culture, and going, Elon Musk is tweeting about Gamergate 2 and complaining about a black samurai in Assassin's Creed, as if that's some kind of proof of anything. You're not allowed to criticize anything without being called far-right. Say what you want about Elon Musk, but he is a gamer, to the point where he literally, to make himself look cool in front of other gamers, boosted his account in Path of Exile. Which is ridiculous, but it's a gamer doing gamer shit. Whereas this male feminist is talking about.
That's why we're bringing back the Games Transformed Festival this summer for the third time with a clear question to answer. How do we kick the fash out of gaming?
The fash. Activists online do this thing where they take serious words about serious things and make cutesy versions of them like it's their friend Monique, but they call her Momo or something. Rapey and fash. Bash the fash. Fash is short for fascism. What does fascism have to do with anything he's talking about regarding video games? What does he mean by kicking out the fash? So if gamers complaining or criticizing political agendas in games, race swaps, ugly female leads, black lesbian leads, iconic male characters being shit on in favor of obnoxious girl bosses, that's fascism? This is the thing. This is why this is a culture war. Because people like this asshole are deciding that people who didn't agree with his politics, who don't want far-left political ideology shaping popular AAA games that are largely played by straight males, he wants these people kicked out of gaming. How do you even do that? Besides hounding straight white male developers out of AAA studios, trying to cancel them, blacklisting them, attacking them for making their own studios if the employee makeup isn't DEI approved. Like, what are you going to do to the actual gamers? The fascists who just want to engage with their hobby without having to listen to unhinged, far-left sociopaths who think that people play games to see themselves. And somehow, everybody in the world has to see them too. This small minority of gender-obsessed weirdos have taken over the AAA space to the point where you've got modding sites banning mods that identify characters as male and female, as opposed to body type A or B, or body type 1 or 2. Nobody thinks about men and women in terms of body type A or B. Yet this is the standard in video games now. So is that it? You're going to kick gamers out of gaming by pushing your ideology so hard that the people you don't like leave? Is that really it? Just keep making games with ugly black lesbian leads so that the fash gamers stop buying games and just go off somewhere to die? I mean, that is what the comic book industry is trying to do.
This is going to be a 2-day event held at Pelican House in London on the 11th and 12th of July. It's going to bring together game developers and players and political organisers and whoever else we can think to invite to puzzle over and answer this question. How can the left do something to stop and eventually push back this creep of extremism that's happening in our backyard?
This is the part that made me want to make a video about this. Now, he's already said earlier how our culture is being overrun, but here he says our backyard. He's saying that gaming is far left activists' backyard. The insanity of this line of thinking, of this rewriting of history, of this gaslighting, of this colonizer bullshit. Gaming doesn't belong to the left. What the fuck is this guy talking about? The left isn't owed supremacy over gaming. They don't have the right, so to speak, to kick people out because they don't want to play a Spider-Man game as a trans-looking Mary Jane Watson, who canonically is a certified dime piece. They don't want the history and the lore and the themes of their favorite franchises destroyed because some emaciated, rat-looking weirdo thinks that complaining about a black samurai in feudal Japan is fascism. This is not the left's backyard. This is our hobby. Gamers' hobby. And the left doesn't have some divine right to who gets to play games, criticize games, and demand what should or shouldn't be in them. If gaming was the left's backyard and it's now being threatened by right-wing fascist gamers, what the fuck was Anita Sarkeesian complaining about all those years ago?
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
Why was DEI needed in the first place then? Why did Crystal Dynamics apologize at the beginning of the Tomb Raider remasters for the racism and cultural insensitivity of those original games? How did Lara Croft go from this to this? If gaming was the left's backyard all this time, why did Cortana need to be changed? Why did Neil Druckmann need to create Abby in The Last of Us Part 2? If gaming was the left's backyard in the beginning, how did all these fascists end up in it? Complaining about things like having to play as ugly Kay Vest in Star Wars Outlaws. All this time, the story has been, with all of these iconic properties being destroyed by feminism and activists, that the reason they needed to be changed is because they were created by racists and sexists. Dungeons and Dragons. Even the creator's daughter called the dude a sexist. Even though Dungeons and Dragons put food on her table and a roof over her head. But activism is so rampant in male entertainment, in geek hobbies, that the left decided that not only should it be destroyed, they can also rewrite history and say it always belonged to them, without explaining how all these fascists ended up here playing older games.
There'll be talks and panels, but also games to play and role-playing workshops designed to tease out lessons that we can then try and apply to this incredible hobby of ours.
This incredible hobby of ours. This isn't your hobby. This is your soapbox. This is just political action. Destroying straight male hobbies, particularly straight white male hobbies, and then talking about how they need to push back the fascists who have crept into their backyard. This is the kind of thing that feels like it's deliberate bait. The whole psyop thing I keep saying about how this stuff is so blatantly silly and absurd and sociopathic that it's got to be done to rile people up. The whole culture war thing is gamers minding their own business, playing games, and activists talking about marginalized people needing to see themselves. We're talking about Kratos, or Snake, or 2B, and they're talking about trans rights and inclusion. This is our hobby. We come to this from all walks of life for the hobby, and we all, gamers, actual gamers, are fine with letting people live and let live. Gamers are fine with some people only playing Madden, or COD, or gacha games, or The Sims, or JRPGs, or driving sims, or whatever. Like, you might have your own genres you like to play, and you're fine with other people playing things that you're not interested in. That's fine. People in the hobby understand that not every game is meant to appeal to every gamer. But activists who screech endlessly about inclusion and diversity only want one type of game and one type of gamer. That's not a hobby. That's a cult. I always say this. I'm fine with Dustborn, or South of Midnight, or 99 Problems and a Bitch Ain't One.
I'm after something called the Morning Star. You know what that is?
I reckon I don't.
Existing in gaming. I would criticize them and make fun of them, but I wouldn't say they should be shut down or shouldn't exist. I would just say that, hey, you don't have an audience for it. You can keep making these games. You don't have an audience for it. But activists, guys like this worm Chris Bratt, and that's another thing. If gaming was the left's backyard, if gaming was the left's culture, why did Chris Bratt make that bullshit hit piece against Steam trying to get them to DEI their hiring practices, which would ruin the company? So that didn't work. So now this guy is putting together an event in which a bunch of blue-haired they-thems are going to get together to try and come up with a way to bash the fash. Kick gamers out of their own hobby for not going along with political ideologies we don't agree with, that we're fundamentally opposed to. But like I was saying, I don't have a problem with these people making their own games and having the choice to play or not play what they want. But they do have a problem with the games we play, with the tropes we like and are interested in.
I don't like what I see.
Study my face frame, pull me on the wall above the staircase.
They don't want Stellar Blade or Black Myth Wukong or Space Marines 2 or The First Descendant to exist alongside their bullshit activist games. They don't want gamers to have a choice between the games we actually like and the activist bullshit they keep pretending is going to save society. Because gaming isn't a hobby to them. This isn't their backyard. They're not gamers. They're terrorists.
Tickets are now available online, and if you're watching this video on YouTube, you should find a link to that in the description below. The Fash are back, and now they know how to use Discord and stream on Twitch, and we should probably start thinking about ways to deal with that.
This piece of shit is acting like he has a right to decide who gets to talk about games and use social media. The entitlement and the narcissism is insane. He's just deciding on his own that people who don't want games turned into leftist propaganda are fascists. This is 1984. This is the party. This is why we have a culture war. Nerd culture was so toxic to feminists that the media and the gaming industry circled the wagons around a woman who didn't give two shits about video games and allowed her to change the entire industry, to the point that she inspired one of the West's most influential video game studios to destroy the Western gaming industry by putting all the feminist talking points in one game, leading just about all the other AAA Western gaming studios to follow suit. Again, if gaming was the left's backyard to begin with, that it was the left's culture, why has it been forced to change so much over the past 10 years or so? Why is Capcom, a Japanese company, censoring so many of their games, censoring remakes and remasters of legendary games? It's not just the West that's been harmed by activists, but this guy is acting like all of a sudden there's this sudden rise of fascism. and it's coming into our space. I don't understand it. And he's putting on this event like,
not because anyone's making them be diverse, because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker.
what is the Fash doing in gaming? Complaining about DEI politics? DEI is not immune to criticism. People complaining online about it isn't fascism. Complaining about Yasuke in Assassin's Creed? What are you going to do to stop people from mocking that and saying, this is a bad idea, it's not going to work? What is the Fash doing in Discord and on YouTube that this little homunculus needs to stop? Criticism. All these far left assholes have to do is call someone far right or a fascist for not going along with their agenda and ideology. And suddenly, magically, they then have the divine right to talk as if something needs to be done about people who they don't agree with or like expressing themselves online. And even if there are racists and people who adhere to fascist ideology who like to play video games, it's not up to you to decide that they can't play games. The main reason why activists invade this space is to take away gaming from the people they don't like, mainly straight white men. To them, all straight white men are fascists. So all the changes to Halo, Assassin's Creed, Gears of War, The Last of Us, Spider-Man, God of War, all the censored remakes and remasters, the Oblivion remaster with the body type 1 and 2 bullshit, and the non-binary armor and clothing for the female characters, and on and on. This shit is everywhere in nerd culture now. Star Wars has been turned into a girls' brand, and not even a girls' brand, it's a brand for childless wine-aunts. Comics is an LGBT and especially T brand. Tabletop gaming is a gay brand now. Warhammer 40k was retconned. The MCU is a brand for no one.
So the Fash are back, and now they know how to use Discord and stream on Twitch, and we should probably start thinking about ways to deal with that.
What the fuck does that even mean? Ways to deal with what? People expressing their opinions about games? These people talk about diversity and equality, but they don't want anyone with a slightly different opinion than theirs to exist. They always do that thing where they go, you're just mad that a woman exists in games, or a person of color, or a gay person. Whatever. But that's just projection. They don't want anyone who isn't a far-left psychopath to play games. They don't want games that have basic time-tested tropes like fan service, cool male heroes, feminine women, and femininity to exist at all. They want every game to be the same, and if you don't like it, by God, they're going to find a way to stop you.
I'm going to be at the Games Transformed. If you can make it as well, I'll see you there. Tickets available at the link below.
Yeah, Games Transformed. I thought gaming was the far left's backyard. What are you transforming games into if gaming was created by the far left?
Call and I can be all you ask of me. Music in spring, flowers for a king. All these I bring to